Hey Neapolitans, NeapolitanGal here. Now, I don't know about where you guys live at, but our local schools have recently gone back. In this town, in this county, I should say, our schools went back on Tuesday. Um, the the county north of us, a town up there, on the very first day of school, which they went back on Monday, they've already had one child hit and injured. Luckily, she wasn't killed. But every year I hear too much on the evening news. I see too much on Facebook news feed about kids getting killed because drivers just aren't paying attention. So this is today's rant. Today's rant is about stealing a line from our local police department, but giving kids a break. When school is in session, and school's in session, and there are kids waiting at bus stops, there are buses out and about, and they are stopping at these bus stops. So they have their sign out, their lights flashing. You should be stopping for these buses. There's no excuse. I don't care how late you are. An extra 15, 20 seconds, maybe a whole minute if there's a big bus stop, isn't going to make you any later for work than you already were. And it's not worth losing your license. In some states now, you're completely losing your license for a period of time, and I believe Florida is actually getting ready to do something along the lines of the license suspension and jail time for any passing bus stops when buses are there with the lights on and the signs out. A few extra seconds aren't worth, one, you losing your license or being suspended or arrested. Two, it's not worth taking a chance on a child being injured or even a bus driver being injured because you couldn't wait an extra few seconds. It's time to grow up. You own a car that weighs 10 times, 20 times what some of these kids on these buses weigh. It's really time for you to take a step back and say, okay, every day I'm getting close to being late for work. These school buses are holding me up. I need to start leaving earlier. And it's sometimes, at first it's easier said than done to say that, okay, well, school buses, I'm being late because of the school buses and I need to start leaving earlier. It'll take a little while to get used to that particular idea. But once you get used to the idea of having to leave a tiny bit earlier so you don't have to worry about school buses, you'll be just fine. Figure out what, the route you take to work, and if there's school buses along it while you are running, then just leave a little bit earlier. It's that simple. I know it takes some time to get used to, but do it. It's not worth running around the school bus, especially when the school bus may be coming from an area, maybe going into an area where kids could be coming from either side, which means they're crossing roads, possibly running across the road because of the way their bus stop is set compared to the neighborhood. You already in neighborhoods have to watch out for kids out playing, watching for balls going across the road, watching for animals crossing the road, cyclists, joggers. Kids are faster. You really need to be paying attention very closely to areas when you get to where there is a bus stop. Even if you get past that bus stop, before the bus comes, guess what? There's still kiddos there. There's kids there waiting for that bus to arrive. So now, not only do you have to make sure that you're not passing that school bus, but you're also making sure that you're being the safest you possibly can when you're passing through those areas where there are bus stops and there are kids at the bus stops waiting for the bus. It is everybody's responsibility to make sure that we are conforming to this. This is not a new idea. This is not something that just came about in the last couple of years. This has been this way for a very, very long time, and it just seems to be getting worse each year with kids getting run over because people just aren't paying attention when they're driving. So that's today's rant. I'm going to expand on that a little bit. If you're at an intersection where there is a bus stop and there is a stop sign, don't do a California roll. Make sure you come to a complete stop. Make sure the kids aren't going to be crossing in front of you all of a sudden. When you are passing a bus stop, be sure that kids that are at that bus stop don't have something happen all of a sudden that they are actually that they actually decide to run out in front of you for. So it's really time to just step up, grow up, make sure that everybody is safe, because it just isn't worth it. It's not worth the family who has to deal with the children going into the hospital. It's not worth the grief that these families will feel from not only you hitting their child and hospitalizing them, but possibly killing them. It's not worth you losing your license or being incarcerated or even dying yourself or being injured yourself because of this. There's just no reason for grown-ass adults, so to speak, to not be paying attention to what they are doing on the roads. Just like when you're driving in a parking lot. If you're driving around in a parking lot and someone walks out in front of you from between two cars, yeah, that's a little harder to plan for. But if it's something, like coming up to a known bus stop and there's at least probably one kid there, and it just doesn't take that long to pay closer attention to make sure that you're not going to hurt somebody. That makes sure that everybody gets to go home tonight unscathed, and just to be safe. It doesn't cost anything to be safe. If it costs you your job to be safe because you're going to be late by a minute or two, that's your own fault. You should be leaving a lot earlier. 5 minutes earlier would put you, in that safe zone. 10 minutes earlier would give you some wiggle room. Think about how much extra time that you need to get through these school zones, and then decide, okay, what you need to do is drive through those areas on a day when there's no school. Drive through those areas on a weekend on the same time. Drive through those areas on a holiday at the same time. And see how much time it took you to get from point A to point B, and then do it during school time and see how much extra time you're requiring because of the school buses. And if there's more than 2 or 3 minutes, leave 5-10 minutes earlier, get your stuff together, turn those alarms earlier, and get out of the house, because it just isn't worth the damage that can and will be done eventually by these kids being at the bus stop when you are trying your darndest to get to work toot sweet. And it's not worth it. It's not worth leaving as late as you possibly want to leave and still trying to make it to work on time. It is not worth the few extra seconds you're going to save by running through these bus stops when there's buses there with their signs open and the lights flashing. It's dark 30 sometimes when you're going past bus stops, when there's high school kids there, when there's elementary school kids there. Middle school kids don't go to school don't catch the bus when it's dark out. But high school and elementary school kids, yeah, especially high school kids, and depending on where the elementary school kids are going, they're catching the bus when it's dark 30. And you need to be more vigilant. Yes, there should be more parents like me sitting at these bus stops making sure that these kids are not unruly. But it's still up to you to make sure that you're not blowing past these bus stops. And to the guy who honked at me the other day, on Tuesday, when I was sitting at the bus stop way away from the intersection, good ways back by our gates, where I wasn't impeding traffic, I wasn't in anyone's way, had my flashers on and all, and he went past me and honked his horn. Beep! I'm like, what the heck? I'm not in your way. My flashers are on. There's clearly kids at the bus stop. I could be a mom waiting for the bus to get there, but he was going by. Beep! And it's like, why? So make sure you don't come to a California rolling stop at these stop signs. Make sure you still don't even do that when there's a red light. Make sure you're always looking left and right and left again, just to be on the safe side that there isn't a kid coming. If you live close to facing neighborhoods, make sure it's not someone running across the road. Just had that happen this morning at our bus stop. A girl came from the neighborhood across the way, crossed 4 lanes of traffic, She, I mean, there wasn't much traffic, but she still crossed 4 lanes of a road to come over to our bus stop to walk east on our sidewalk. And there's another boy from the neighborhood next door to us. They met up and they came to our bus stop instead of meeting at hers or his. They came to ours. So there are bodies moving around first thing in the mornings. You can't see them sometimes. In the afternoon, same thing. Just watch out. If it's a kid, just be careful. If there's a bus, do what you're supposed to do. If it's a divided highway, if it's a divided road with a median, whether it's planted median or cement median, as long as there's a median and you're on the opposite side from that bus, you can go. Just use caution. Make sure no one's trying to cut across that road, even if the bus is there. A lot of common sense goes a long ways. Even a little common sense goes a long, long ways. But if you want to keep everybody safe, these are the extra steps you need to take. Leave an extra 5 or 10 minutes early in the morning so you're not encountering buses. If you're going to come to a school zone, leave a few minutes earlier and take a different route. Anything to save yourself some time and not be getting in trouble at work for being late, do it. Figure it out, sit down one night and decide the routes. Where I go to work, I can take one of about 4 different ways to get to work. So any which way I go, I can figure it out. I only have one area that time of morning that crosses a school zone, and I don't have to go that way. It's as simple as that. If you can do that, do it. Just make sure that you're paying very close attention to these school bus stops. I'm going to go check my mail and go upstairs and relax for a while. Y'all have a good evening.